Hello, my name is Julie Kebach. I have been involved with banking services for approximately 15 years now, and I currently serve as the Vice President of the Corporate Risk Management area for Fishback Financial Corporation. The next topic we will be discussing is identity theft, and what are some of the trends that we're seeing, and what, more importantly, are tips for protection. How do you protect yourself? This is a topic that I'm very passionate about, and so I hope that I can provide enough information for you to help protect you in a concise, quick format here. But again, there's all sorts of education resources out there. Please, at the end of the slide here, or at the end of the presentation here, take the opportunity to investigate some of that on your own. When it comes to fraud, knowledge is power. It is all about the money. People are working very hard out there to steal their money. It is their occupation. They're very good at what they do. I oftentimes say, the bad guys, the fraudsters out there, are some of the smartest people in the world, and it's just too sad that we don't have them on our side. I would love to have some of the people with that level of intelligence being able to work for us and try to help us keep ahead of the fraudsters. Some of the goals of a fraudster, the things that they're trying to do, are hide their identity. Their goals are to gather other people's personal information and access to your other private, like account information, and then they're going to use all of that information to gain access to your accounts and transfer funds for their gain. And so those are the goals of being a fraudster. So assuming that something like this is never going to happen to you, it just won't make it go away. The best offense is a good defense. It is not if you will become a victim in today's technological age and the way that we're able to hide identity and do so many things anonymously, the underground black markets. It's when you will become a victim. And so today we're going to focus on how to become an informed victim and how do we go about minimizing that damage. We're going to first of all start out by talking about banking fraud. We're going to talk about what does it look like, what does it feel like, what can you do to protect yourself. The first thing is be proactive. Check all of your accounts on a regular basis. Passwords, it's so important. We're going to talk a lot about passwords today. I'm going to try to sprinkle that in here and there, and so hopefully give you some really great tips on that. Set up the passwords for every online account that's possible. And what I mean by that is don't just leave accounts with their generic or default passwords. Make sure that you're creating strong passwords. If you're not going to access those sites online, make sure to contact the bank and tell them to be deactivating that. Make sure, one of the other things that people don't often take advantage of is for telephone contact with your bank. It is okay to ask them to set up a password that only you and your bank know, so that when you're contacting them to talk over the telephone, that they can ask you for that password to make sure that it's really you with whom they're communicating. Some more information on passwords, like I mentioned earlier, using very strong passwords, a combination of letters, numbers, special characters, make sure that they're lengthy passwords. Change those passwords at least every 6 months. When you're accessing sites, do not click on the links found in documents. Links can be very evil, for lack of a better term. You will want to access the sites independently. And what do I mean by that? Accessing a site independently means don't click on the link and follow it. Figure out what that website address is, and then open up a new browser and type in that website address in the new browser yourself. Links can often be masked or disguised to take you to malicious sites instead, and they will then scrape the information that you may be entering there. As far as revealing information to your bank, please always remember that the banks know your passwords, your account number, the personal information. You've already provided it to them. They don't need you to provide it back to them. So if you receive a call from someone saying that they're bank and they want you to provide information to confirm it's you, I would strongly encourage you not to do this. I would take down their name, number, and department, and then use a known number to call the bank back. You know, one of the ways that you can do this is, what is the number through the telephone book? What's the number on the back of your card if they're calling about one of your debit or credit cards? What's the number that they provide to you on your bank statement? Those are some known sources that you can use to contact your bank, and just ask, are you really trying to contact me about this information? Because there are times, as the last bullet point points here, that your bank can call you if there's suspicious activity on your accounts, and especially in the credit card areas. So do be proactive and check your accounts often. Another way that you can help reduce your possibility of becoming victim is in the area of bank statements. Do sign up for electronic statements. This eliminates your need to shred the paper that you receive. It's less mail for you to handle. Also, process your bills, pay your bills electronically. Stop writing checks floating around. There's too many hands that get involved. If you make a check payment, let's say at the grocery store, how many hands does that check go through, and your account information is right on there before it ultimately ends up back at your bank for processing? And so do encourage you to pay bills online, use your credit cards, debit cards, and things like that to conduct your transaction. As far as paying your bills online, you can push or pull from the business and the bank, and it's typically really easy and convenient, and in the end it can save you time and money, and that's a good thing too. Use direct deposit. Again, have the funds transferred directly to your account. Don't get paid by check. There's not a lot of larger businesses today that probably are offering their employees to get paid by check, but some of those smaller businesses may. So work with your employer to see if there's a way that you can set up for direct deposit. Checks, as we talked earlier, use electronic payments whenever possible. Being careful who you give your check to. And the final tip that we have here is do not put your social security number or date of birth on a check. That is sensitive information that's often used to help identify you when communicating with a bank. A couple of other types of banking fraud get into debit and charge card fraud, credit and charge card fraud. And this is mainly related to your credit cards or loans that you get from credit card companies or your banks. There's a couple of different laws that we have out there, the Truth in Lending Act, or amended by the Fair Credit Billing Act, that actually limits what you can be liable for from a fraudulent purchase perspective. However, this does depend on your card company and what association they may be dealing with. Visa offers certain protections that maybe MasterCard and Discover don't offer. And so again, it's important to be educated on the types of products that you're using. From a debit card perspective, a couple of things to think about is, first of all, your debit card is tied back typically to your checking account. And so when you use your debit card, that money is being withdrawn from your account. So if somebody gets access to your debit card, they're getting direct access into your checking accounts. And so a couple of things to keep in mind there from a protection perspective or consumer protection perspective is the Electronic Funds Transfer Act. If you notify your bank within certain periods of time, you are able to lower your liability for fraudulent use. And so within 2 days, your liability can be limited to $50, if you provide notice within 2 to 6 days. It could be limited to $500, but again, this can vary by your bank's policies a bit, and so it's just important that you get in touch with your bank as soon as possible if you detect fraudulent activity on your cards. Some of the other things to be aware of that we see for trends in banking fraud are RFID cards, where we have the chips in the card. RFID, just for those out there, radio frequency identification, where we use electromagnet fields to transfer data. And so this is how that card information can be read from a distance. You may have it in your purse, but that type of card, somebody just walking by your purse could actually scan that information. And so it's very important to make sure that you're protecting those cards. When you're using ATM machines, be aware of your surroundings. Watch for skimmers and extra cameras attached to the ATMs. Watch for lighting in the areas. Also, are there others in the general area that may be watching you as you're entering your PIN information? Just take precautions to make sure that you're protecting yourself when using those ATM machines. Gas stations, this is another popular thing for the fraudsters to do, is to attach skimmers to the card readers at the pump. And so if you like to use the pump because you don't like to go into the gas station like me, just make sure that you're being aware, is there anything unusual about that card reader at that pump? And if so, be sure to go into the gas station to pay for your gas and notify the attendant. What are some of the different things that we can do to protect ourselves? When it comes to our debit cards, this is very popular, like I said earlier, because it's connected to your checking account. So it's a very popular tool for the fraudsters is to get access to your debit card information. And so request lower limits, lower daily limits or transaction limits on your card. For example, a lot of institutions set limits that you can spend up to $1,000 a day without having any restrictions. If you're not the type of person who spends that in a typical manner, then ask them to lower that so that it lowers your risk. You can also always then request temporary limit increases. You know you're going to go out shopping on Black Friday and you're going to purchase that wonderful TV that they have on sale. Make sure to call your bank ahead and say, okay, I think I'm going to be spending up to $2,500 today for some different electronic equipment. Can you please temporarily increase my limit just for today? Suspend your card when it's not in use. This is something that we here at the financial institution I work for recently implemented. And it's so slick and can be done so easily. You can do it right via your mobile phone, turn it on and off, and it actually is activated within seconds. So if you have your phone off, but you know that you're going to go in and make a purchase, you can turn it on right before stepping up to the checkout line, swipe your card as soon as the payment's made, turn it right back off. And that way, if a fraudster does get a hold of your information, your card is suspended and not able to be used. So again, there's lots of tools out there, and just encourage you to educate yourself, contact your bank about what they may be. Some other things that you can do is just set up email and text alerts. You know, if charges go over a certain amount or if withdrawals go over a certain amount, you can have an alert sent to you. Again, monitoring your account on a frequent basis. Again, we're going to talk about passwords. Make sure to set up your passwords and make them strong. And then finally, if you're the type of individual that travels quite a bit, and especially international travel, please notify your bank or your credit card company when you're traveling. That will assist them in monitoring your card accounts and your bank accounts, and hopefully make it easier for you to use, especially when you're traveling internationally, so that your card is not declined when you go to use it. What are some of the other things that we can do? So we talked about those RFID cards earlier. You can purchase sleeves that will protect those cards from being scanned. We talked earlier about signing up for e-statements to eliminate those paper statements. Again, at an ATM, make sure when you're entering that PIN number, cover that keypad with your hand so that people can't see your PIN number. When in doubt about a card reader on either a gas pump or an ATM, pull on that card reader to see if it pops off, if there's anything else attached. And again, look for those small cameras. Shred card offers. You can go out to that website or that phone number listed right there to reduce the number of credit card offers that you received to opt out. And that's always helpful. That way you're not getting those in the mail, because if the fraudster gets access to them, they may be able to set up, take access to those credit card offers in your name and rack up all sorts of fraudulent transactions in your name. Paying attention to letters from your bank that confirm changes to your account. Copy the front and back of your cards and keep them in a safe place. This is so that you have quick and easy access if your information is ever lost or your card, is lost or stolen. If your cards are lost or stolen, you'll want to know, how do I get a hold of my bank to report this? And so I do encourage you to keep it, that type of information copied and in a safe place, such as a safety deposit box or a fire-proof safe in your home. Use various bank services. Banks are starting to offer more ID theft protection services, secure data exchanges that will secure your exchanges with them via online banking. So one of the things that I'm responsible for in my role is providing training to our frontline staff. And we have to challenge ourselves to think like the fraudsters in order to help our frontline staff stay ahead of the fraudsters. And so one of the things we like to do is say, if I were a fraudster, I would wear a ball cap to hide my identity. I would befriend a bank employee and ask lots of questions. I would dumpster dive or offer to pay a bank employee who needed the money for information. I would use the information from a bank employee to withdraw funds from a drive-up location where it would be hard to see me in the evening. And if I was an employee of a bank, I would access an account with a dormant status. And so those are some of the things that the fraudsters are doing. Make sure that if you have accounts that have gone dormant, it's always a good thing to make sure to be in contact with your bank to close those accounts, or see if there's a different account that is better suiting your needs. Now let's switch to computer fraud, because this is where a lot of the fraud that we've been hearing about within the industry is initiated from. So what are some of the basics you need to know about computer fraud? knowing how to operate your computer, making sure that you have the latest antivirus and spyware updates, ensuring your system and internet browser software is all updated, installing firewalls, protecting your wireless system. Make sure that you're masking the name of the router when you set up that wireless system. Don't use it, don't just put your family name in there. Don't put your address in there. That's what the fraudsters are going to use that information to know whose wireless system it is, and make sure that you're using a strong password. Lock those wireless systems down. Your wireless provider may be able to help you, or the supplier of your router system should hopefully have some good tips for you on doing that as well. Now here again, we talked about passwords earlier. I'm going to give you a few more tips on passwords. Make sure that your passwords are at least 8 characters or more, and make sure that they're try to make sure that they're completely random. Again, using letters, a combination of numbers, letters, and special characters. With your letters, making sure that they're upper and lower case. Now, not all systems will allow special characters, so you'll have to kind of figure out which special characters could be used on the various systems. It's very important that you not store passwords online or on the computer. You need to write them down and then keep them in a secure place. I'm still trying to figure out how to tell my very organized sister that keeping all of her online IDs and passwords in a Word document stored on her computer is not the best way to keep herself secure. So always looking for educational opportunities like that for my family. Do not reveal passwords to anyone. Make sure that you're not using the save password feature for various applications and websites. Another aspect of computer fraud is emails. Email is a great form of communication. We want you to enjoy them, but be careful. You need to be aware that things are not always what they seem to be. Do not believe everything that you see in email. A lot of scams, including viruses and malware, actually are initiated through email. Typically, emails involve a request to wire money, and there is some sort of emotional reaction that they're trying to get you to play on. For example, look at that cute puppy. Oh my goodness, there's a problem with your account. Please contact us as soon as possible. They'll try to encourage you to click on a link to go somewhere. Again, being wary of emails, they may not have been sent by whom you think. It's very easy to spoof who the sender of an email is. You know, we want to make sure that you are accessing websites independently, not through a link like we talked earlier. So if there's links in emails, that you're taking whatever that website is and going out and opening up a new web browser and typing that information in. And then finally, never, never, never provide personal information to anyone unless you initiate the contact with a known entity. Be very careful about what you put in your email. Don't put your social security numbers in email. If you do have something on your computer that's allowing a fraudster to monitor your email exchanges, make sure that you're limiting account information, other sensitive information, date of birth, things like that in your email exchanges. Firewalls, antivirus, and spyware are very important to reduce your risks of being vulnerable to viruses, trojans, and bots. One of the things for you to keep in mind is when hackers take over your computer to do dastardly deeds, what would you do when the police come knocking at your door because they think it's you? So again, a little bit of a training tip. If I were a fraudster, I would use only technology to communicate in order to hide my identity. I would send an email appearing to be from someone that you know. I would use the information that we obtain from that email exchange to then take over your identity and contact your bank to take over your account. So again, thinking like a fraudster. Now we'll go on to social networking site fraud. I have to admit, I'm still one of probably the very few people out there who does not have a Facebook account. I'm not on Twitter. Probably it comes with the territory of my job. I have seen the way that people can fall victim or have fraud perpetrated against them. And so please be very careful and limit what information you put out on your social networking sites. You know, it's very important that you keep your profile private. Ask yourself, you know, do my friends and family really need to know this information? Regularly change your passwords on your site. The information that you put on your site can help the fraudsters know more about you. For example, what you like or mark as your favorites, where you went shopping, some different things like that, recent purchases. By putting things like your birthday and hometown, your employer, your family name, your dog's name, your mother's maiden name, those are all the types of things that people love to share out on these social networking sites. Unfortunately, they're also the exact type of things that banks like to use for security questions to help identify that you are who you say you are when you're calling in. So again, from a training perspective, if I were a fraudster, I would mock up a LinkedIn profile to hide my identity. I would review publicly available information about individuals to gather the sensitive information. I would send them an invite, whether it's via the social networking site or email, with malware links to be able to access even more of their personal information, take over their identity, and again, use that information against them to perpetrate fraud on their bank accounts. Here's some information about phishing. There's lots of information about their phishing and farming. Essentially, phishing is an attempt to steal your information. There's many ways that they go about it, but one of the most common ways involves sending an email. But please note there are other ways via phone, pop-up windows, and fake websites. Essentially, a criminal sends out an email to a number of individuals hoping to get them to click on a link. Again, they're going to play on your emotion, something to lure you into clicking on a link, some sort of sense of urgency, some sort of reward to get you to click on that link. And then once you click on that link, they're going to take you to a website or a form that you're supposed to fill out, and they're going to ask you for all kinds of sensitive information, and then they've got all of your information to be able to conduct fraud in your name. Who are the fraudsters targeting? Businesses and consumers tend to be on the smaller business side when it is businesses, and it's because of the liquid funds that they tend to keep available in their checking accounts. Consumers and smaller businesses, unfortunately, maybe lack of awareness and education, lack of the security controls, IT resources limited, and maybe even some delayed monitoring that's occurring. So how can I spot a fake email? How can I help protect myself? The sender's address can be spoofed in an email, so please protect yourself. Generic greetings. You know, if somebody knows you well enough to be sending you an email, hopefully it's not dear user. Watch for spelling errors and poor grammar. This is something that is very, very easy to spot. If this is somebody that you would normally exchange with and it's not the normal tone of their email, please take note of that. A false sense of urgency. Something requires immediate attention. They may describe a tragic situation, such as an illness or death of a family member or a family member in prison. Anything that's going to entice you to take action, like I said, such as a reward or lottery winnings. They may include the fake links. Again, it's very easy to fake those links. One of the things you can do is try to hover over that link and see if the link that they typed is the same as what the hover displays. It's very important to double check on things like that. Attachments, being very careful. A lot of malware and viruses are stored in attachments. And then another tip that you can monitor for is the avoidance of verbal communication. There's usually some sort of excuse for why they can't talk to you. They're in meetings all day or they're traveling. And so those are some of the tips that you can keep in mind to help spot that fraudulent email. Now let's shift to mail fraud. We've talked a lot about technology, but good old-fashioned U.S. Postal Service mail. Make sure you get mail out of your mailbox as soon as possible. Bad people will go through your mail. Make sure to shred. Buy that cross-cut shredder. It's much more difficult to reassemble that information. Shred everything that has personal information on it. Do not send mail using your home mailbox. Those red flags that we put up on our mailbox to let the mailman know that they can come and pick something up out of our box are the same red flags that the fraudster may watch for. And what do we often put in the mail? It's not, just cards. It may, be cards with cash in it or cards with checks in it, or maybe it's a bill that we're paying that have our checks in it. So the best thing to do if you've got to mail something is use the U.S. Post Office and go inside. You may also use the blue mailboxes, but just realize those aren't always safe. And then finally, online documents are the way to go. Medical fraud. We're going to touch on this in a couple of different manners, but always review your explanation of benefits, or EOB. Did you actually receive the treatment or services that are mentioned in your explanation of benefits? And then one of the things that I'm not sure everybody realizes is a lot of medical bills and whatnot are reported to your credit report. So by checking your credit report annually, you'll be able to stay on top of that. One of the things that I find very frustrating personally, because of my love of children, are the fraudsters who prey on the identities of our children. These are ripe for identity theft. You know, if they can get access to our children's social security numbers and birth dates, because it can take many years to identify. We aren't often pulling credit cards, or excuse me, often pulling credit reports on children and different things like that. Most common fraud in this area is perpetrated by family members. Some of the ways that you can clue into this are the mail or credit card offers that are coming in your child's name, bill collectors calling regarding your child. And again, like I said, you know, one possible prevention is to see if you can pull one of those free annual credit reports in your child's name. Now, just a real quick overview, what are some of the common scams? We have the telemarketing and auto dialer scams. So somebody either calls you purporting to be a telemarketer trying to sell you something and get your account information, or another one that's quite popular are those auto dialer scams. You receive a call and you can tell it's automated, either a call or a text, requiring you to provide your card information to reactivate your account. This is very likely a scam. Just hang up the phone, don't do anything with it. You may want to contact your bank so that they know that you have been a potential victim of this. And usually when they get a hold of those card numbers, it's for an entire pool of cards for a specific bank. We've often heard of those Nigerian letters or the 419 scams. This is someone from another country needing your help, asks for you to send money to them to help them. I can tell you if you're sending money internationally, it usually involves wires. You're probably never going to see the money again with that. Healthcare and insurance scams, like we talked earlier, your bills for services that you're not receiving. Sometimes they'll set up fake tests at health clubs or shopping malls and bill your insurance company for that. So one thing to make sure to do to protect yourself is read those explanation of benefits, look at that free credit report. And the thing I want you to realize when it comes to healthcare, medical, or insurance scams, you do not have the same protections as a consumer of a bank. And so you, as a consumer, will end up paying for the fraudulent charges and things like that when it involves that type of scam. For lottery and sweepstakes scams, these typically require you to send wires to an international bank to pay for the taxes and whatnot, and after you pay that fee or whatever it is, they're going to send you millions of dollars because you've just won. Again, don't send that money. It's very likely a scam. Again, grandparent scams, this is one that really, really bothers me. Fraudsters often prey on our senior citizens because they're very, especially those who may be wealthy, they are less likely to report scams because they're embarrassed. They're very trusting individuals. And so the way the grandparent scam works is the fraudster calls purporting to be the grandchild, indicating that they're in trouble. They need help. Maybe they're in jail or something and they need the bail money, and they want you to go to Western Union right away and send a wire. And so again, let's take the opportunity to educate our elderly members of our family. Overpayment scams, this is usually involving something you purchase online, where an internet auction, eBay or something like that, where they send you too much money in a check for something they purchased and ask you to wire the difference between the amount they sent you and the purchase price back to them. So for example, you charge them $1,000 for the purchase of some equipment. They send you a check for $2,000 and ask you to deposit the check and wire the $1,000 difference back to them. Don't do that, because that check is going to come back and it's going to bounce and you are going to be out of the money in addition to the bank being out some money. Of course, whenever we have tragic events, charity scams pop up, and then identity tax refund scams. If people can steal your identity, they can process your tax returns before you get a chance to, and it can take years for you to be able to clean this up. And so be sure that you are filing your information early and staying on top of who has access to your tax information. Who and what can you not control? Pretty much everyone else. You can't control what the banks are going to do, credit card companies, medical offices, what happens on the internet, etc. All I can encourage you to do is please don't be so trusting, but however, don't be paranoid. Just be proactive. Use common sense. Check and check often. You are your best defense. I had somebody one time tell me that technology does do great things to protect us, but it's not perfect. Our brain is our backup. And so using that common sense, hopefully, if there's something, you've got your spidey senses that are tingling that something's not right, you're probably right. Contact your bank and be proactive. So what else can we do? Don't share your confidential information in response to an unsolicited request. If you didn't initiate the contact, don't share. Only share your confidential information with those who have a legitimate reason to know. Ask additional questions when something does not seem right. Be alert for fake phone calls. Verify the authenticity of an inquiry by calling the known number. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Do not use the number provided by the individual making the call. Ask yourself, did I initiate this call or was I expecting this call? Fraudsters often use a technique called the dead air technique. They may ask very generic questions and then pause to see what kind of information you're willing to provide. The other thing that they prey on is that we tend to feel obligated to answer questions and don't like long pauses or silence, so they'll continue to pause to see if we'll actually provide them with more information. Please, I would encourage you to sign up for the National Do Not Call Registry at the website listed there. It's a free option to opt out of telemarketing calls and should be active within 31 days of you signing up. Use only secure wireless internet systems, especially when you're conducting banking transactions or making purchases on a public system. Create strong passwords. Again, we're talking about passwords. Use the guidelines that we've already provided earlier. The longer, more complex, the better. Do not use dictionary words. Do not use the same password for online banking, email, and other websites. Make sure that you're mixing up those passwords. Let's see here. Impose extra scrutiny when an inquiry asks you to send money to a foreign country, and especially send money via wire. I can't encourage you enough to continually adapt to the threat of fraud. Complacency invites fraud. As we talked earlier, some of the smartest people, they're always looking for ways to enhance their capabilities, so we need to make sure we're staying on our toes. Some of the best things that you can do is educate yourself, educate your family, educate your friends. Make sure to get your free annual credit report. You can get one per year from each of the reporting agencies via the website listed there. Review it. If there is fraud, make sure to go to any of the credit bureaus and put a fraud alert on your account, report it to police, and contact your bank and other creditors. And then finally, what else can we do? Protecting our physical property, our home and our garage. Lock the doors and windows, especially from the garage to the house. A lot of times people don't even have locks on those doors going from their garage to their house. And make sure you're securing important documents. Lock your doors, roll up the windows of your car. I had somebody tell me one time, if you want it stolen, just leave it in your car in plain view. Do not leave your car running or unattended, regardless of how cold it is, even in our South Dakota weather. A final thought. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. In today's age of all of the fraud and everything, please keep that in mind. So I've included some websites here that you can go to test your fraud knowledge. And then finally, some more websites where you can learn information on how to avoid becoming a victim of fraud, what to do if you do become a victim of fraud, and what are some of the scams to be watching out for. With that, that concludes our identity theft presentation.